You can tell this is a serious topic because I'm here in the dark room to talk about serious, dark things. And the serious, dark thing that I'm here to talk about is the tariffs, and specifically the responses that some stores are making to the tariffs. Here is the SpeedyBee F722 flight control stack that used to cost about $120. It is now listed for $188 on Race Day Quads. And I picked this one just as an example because the SpeedyBee stack has always been a very good value flight control stack. So to see it priced so preposterously high, well, to be fair, the value version was the F405. That's the F722, which has always been a little more expensive, but that is just a ridiculously high price. And it is reflected in many, many other prices basically across the board at, well, currently Race Day Quads and GetFPV, but many other stores have made announcements that because of the tariffs, the prices are going to go up. And I'm having a hard time with this because on the one hand, as a person who buys FPV gear, it absolutely sucks to see things essentially doubling in price. I know that y'all think I get everything I want for free just by waving a magic wand. That's not true. I buy way more stuff than probably you do because there's stuff that I want for my own hobby use, for professional use, but I don't want to reach out to a store and say, will you send it to me? Because then I'm just on the hook for a review. I just want to get the product and do stuff with it. I buy a lot of stuff and I am now paying twice as much for it when I buy it. But there's another side to this that I think people are not seeing. And as distasteful as some people will find it for me to go, why won't someone please think of the poor businesses? I'm kind of going to do it because I think there's a perspective here that a lot of people are missing. And the problem is, if your attitude is, F these businesses for gouging me, for scalping me, as Mads Tech said, if they're gouging you and scalping you, then by all means, F them. Go take your money somewhere else. But if what's really happening is that they are trying to hang on by their fingernails to stay in business in a completely untenable, unsurvivable business environment, if your attitude is F them, then they're going to go out of business and there will be nowhere to buy this stuff. Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But that's sort of the perspective shift that I think you should at least consider. And here's the argument people are making. They say, if the tariff goes into effect, then I understand that you have to raise prices. You can't sell product at a loss. You'll go out of business. Nobody seems to have a problem with companies marking up products in response to the tariffs. But what they're saying is the tariffs have only just gone into effect. So the latest round of tariffs went into effect April 9th. It is currently April 15th. There is currently a 145% tariff on stuff that comes from China. So when GetFPV or Race Day Quads places an order, and I want to be really clear that I am not speaking for them. I am not speaking with inside information about their business practices, but I do have some awareness of how business practices work in general in the FPV community. When they place an order, let's say they place an order for $100,000 from a given manufacturer. They pay $100,000 to that manufacturer. The product comes to the United States. And then they get a bill from the United States Customs, whatever, for $145,000, 145% tariff. And they pay that to the U.S. government, who then gives them their product. And so the argument people are making is that if GetFPV has a product that they bought before April 9th, and that product is sitting on their shelf, which is the assumption because this shows as in stock. It was in stock on April 9th. Therefore, we can infer reasonably that GetFPV did not pay the 145% tariff on this product. The argument that people are making is that if you didn't pay the tariff on it, then you're just gouging me by charging me as if you had paid the tariff. And I get that. But what I think you're missing is just how unsurvivable this situation really is for the stores. Because a store has to make enough money today to finance their operations tomorrow, right? What the stores are doing is they're saying, oh shit, all of a sudden, we're going to have a 145% markup on the products that we need to continue sustaining operations. Where's that money going to come from? And one place that money is going to come from is to mark up the product that they already have. Where else do you think that money should come from? And some people say, well, if you're running your business in a healthy way, then you should have enough cash reserve to bear out some shocks. And I agree with you. Businesses should have a cash reserve, but a cash reserve of 145%, an extra $145,000 to receive a $100,000 order. This is not like GetFPV and Race Day Quads are not like Apple sitting there on a multi-billion-dollar cash reserve. Just these companies are, I'm not going to say they're struggling, but FPV companies ever since like 2021 have been fighting hard just to stay in business. Because the market has been so unstable, because it has been so hard to get product, because prices have gone up and people have said, well, I can't buy this. They've been struggling hard. Margins are terrible, but they have managed to stay in business. And now that we've got this shock, to say that any company should have enough cash reserve to weather a 145% uptick is, I think that's just asking a lot and unreasonable. And you might say, well, somebody said on Facebook, yeah, but all these, I know how it works. You order a product, you have net 30, net 60, net 90. The company sends you the product, and then 30 days later, you owe them the money. That's how business works a lot of the time. That is not how ordering from China works. Every single time that I'm aware of that a retailer buys from a manufacturer in China, they place the order, and then they pay for the order with a wire transfer or sometimes with PayPal. And after the payment goes through, then the order ships. And then when the boat gets to America 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, sometimes the product isn't even manufactured at the time that they place the order. They say, I need a run of motors. I need 500 motors with my name on them. And they go to the OEM and they pay the money. And the OEM starts making the motors once the money is paid. And sometimes it's 2 months from the time that you send the money to the time that the product arrives at your door. And during that period, you're just out that money. Okay? So the situation that I'm proposing to you is that a company like GetFPV has paid $100,000, just round numbers, making up a number, and that money is gone. And they paid that money on April 1st. They don't have the product yet. The product is coming. And on April 9th, suddenly there is a 145% uptick in the price of their product. They will not receive that product unless they pay the U.S. government an additional $145,000 on that $100,000 order. So what do? They don't have $145,000 just sitting around to throw away to the U.S. government to get this product. And if they do pay that money, if they did pay that money, here's where the situation is so effed up. What makes this situation worse is not just that there is a sudden 145% uptick because of this tariff. It's the unpredictability of the situation. Because the way that the current administration is running things is it's like, today there's nothing, then tomorrow there's a 30% tariff, then suddenly there's an 80% tariff, then suddenly there's a 145% tariff, and then suddenly, oh, the tariff is on pause. If they pay that $145,000 today, they get their product, and then suddenly next week the tariffs are off because they made a deal. Now they have a product that they paid 145% uptick on, and their competitors have a product that they paid no tariff on, and they're effed. They're just out that money. They cannot sell it to the customers for that price. This is a completely untenable business environment. I don't know how anybody can run a business under these conditions. And that's not really, I don't know. The government does things. It's good for business. It's bad for business. That's a political decision. But what I want to get across is just how effed up this situation is for these FPV companies who are trying to survive so that they can continue making money and paying their salary, but nobody's getting rich off this, so that they can continue giving you the product that you want in order to continue to enjoy the hobby. And so, if they look at the situation and go, what we need to do is we need to try to get as much value as we can out of the product that we have so we can maybe survive for another month and just see what happens. Maybe there's a 145% tariff. Maybe there isn't. I don't know, but we need it. We need this cash reserve. Well, why don't they have a cash reserve? Where is it supposed to come from? They're already, margins are already razor thin. They're already struggling with all the other things that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years. So, what business needs is stability and predictability in order to You can try to run a business under challenging situations, but what makes business very hard is when stuff is radically more expensive today and radically less expensive tomorrow. It is just a gambling game. And it means that somebody who happens to buy a product today will end up at a disadvantage, and somebody who happens to buy a product tomorrow will end up at an advantage. And it is very, very difficult to keep your business alive under those conditions. And I honestly don't know how they're going to do it. But that's a question for the politicians, I suppose, and not a question for me.